And 140 billion is what the math reads out as of what their holiday quarter will look like. Important when April is their 50th anniversary.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. They normally, in the last half a decade or so, since the beginning of COVID, haven't really given guidance. But for this holiday quarter, they're back to that. So they said that the quarter would grow 10 to 12%. That's the current quarter, the holiday period. And that comes in anywhere between around 135 to 139 billion. Typically, when they've given guidance in the past, they've been conservative, so they like to sort of smash through that. And so you can imagine that internally they're aiming for something north of 140 billion, which obviously would be quite impressive, given where they've been the last few years.
And therefore take us where they're going in the next year or so, because Power On really outlines the myriad of areas they're trying to leap forward on, not just Siri, but real hardware and chip updates too.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. You're going to see a series of M5 related updates to the Mac, things like the Mac Mini, the Mac Studio, the MacBook Air, and the MacBook Pro across the first 9 months or so of 2026. You'll see a foldable iPhone at the end of 2026. Perhaps the introduction of the smart glasses at the end of 2026. The first 3, 4, 5 months of 2026 are going to be chock full of things. A push into smart home devices, that HomePod with a display, the MacBook Pro and MacBook Air I mentioned, a ton of things on the software side related to Siri. So it's going to be a pretty jam-packed year for 2026. And then you go into 2027, where you're going to see even more major leaps and bounds when it comes to hardware.
And will it be the same people at the top? How do you see the talent and the focus and reworking of Apple continuing amid its 50th anniversary?
You know, Apple's biggest challenge right now is retaining talent, specifically for its AI division, its machine learning folks. They're bleeding talent to places like Meta, to Anthropic, to XAI. It's been very difficult for them to hold on to people because Siri, really, it has a really bad reputation. One of the big things they're going to be doing for Siri to improve it is using a custom model developed by Google's Gemini team. It's going to run on Apple servers, but Apple's paying Google to develop it. And that's a bit of a setback for Apple's internal models team. And so they basically, for now, have split it, whereas the models that run on Apple devices themselves, the ones for Apple Intelligence, those are those in-house models, which have been somewhat problematic, depending on who you ask. And then for the Siri models, they're moving to Gemini to power some of it. So it's an interesting dynamic they've created there.